بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I hope everybody is doing great, inshallah, today. Nice weather, but it's good to be in the masjid, alhamdulillah. Okay, now just like last time, before we get started, mashallah, the front rows here are still empty, and I expect a lot of people to come in the middle. If you can, I'm not gonna pick on you if you sit on the front row, so you can come and fill the front seats first, just so that if people come from the back, they don't have to come and interrupt us here in the middle. Okay, so let's quickly begin by covering the homework questions, which I sent last week. Once again, if you didn't receive the homework questions, or if you if you don't even know what this homework thing is about, come talk to us after. Come talk to me. Come to speak to teacher Fatima, and we will add you to the WhatsApp group where we are sending all these questions. So we'll start with the first question. Boys or girls, whichever. I think let's start with the girls because there's more girls than boys. Can someone please define to me what is Islamic Aqeedah? You can, by the way, look at the answers that you wrote down. Like, it's okay. You don't have to say it off your head. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Very good. So it is believing in the 6 pillars of Iman, which we covered last week. Believing in Allah, in the angels, in the books, in the prophets, in the day of judgment, and in the decree or the destiny of Allah, both the good and the bad, and believing all of this with full certainty. Right? That's an important part. You're not just, it's not just a 50 or not 50, or it's not just a 99% chance, it's 100%. You have full confidence that you have full certainty in this belief. Boys, can someone please name one evidence for how we get our Islamic Aqeedah? Yes, the Quran. Jazakallah khair. The Quran. If you want to be more specific, the verses in the Quran, we mentioned some of them. ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب هذا آية ولكن البر من آمن بالله والملائكة والكتاب بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين, right? Or آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله. Or the hadith which we will actually cover next week, the hadith of Jibreel, where Jibreel came to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and he actually asked him, can you tell me what is Iman? And he told him, faith is to believe. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he responded and he said, faith is to believe in Allah, in the books, and the angels, and the prophets, and the day of judgment, and in Qadr. Right? So all of these are evidences, and there's more, of course, but these are just examples that we covered from last week, inshallah. When we talk about hadith, back to the girls, when we talk about hadith, what generally speaking does hadith, when I read hadith, what do I learn from hadith in general? Girls, please. Someone raise their hand. Nobody knows what is hadith. You don't know anything about hadith. Yes. The teachings of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So we talked about it last week. So we said hadith, when you read it, it's either wisdoms from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and we gave the example last week of the famous hadith where he's advised the other Sahabi that do not get angry, right? That's a piece of advice. Or there is certain actions that he did, and the Sahaba saw it. They saw him praying in a certain way. They saw him walking in a certain way. They heard him saying certain things, or it is incidents that took place in his life. And that's primarily the seerah. And they are simply telling us, okay, we saw the Prophet in the battle, he said this, and that, this, and that happened to him, right? So all of these we find in hadith. Then we cover the concept of isnad. Can someone please, from the boys, tell me What is isnad? When we talk about isnad, what is isnad? You didn't answer, right? Yes, go ahead. The chain of narrators, the chain of narration, right? So the chain of narration, and if you remember the diagram that I gave you last time, this person told it to this guy, told it to this person, told it to that person, until it reaches us. And this allows scholars of hadith to look at a certain hadith and to study all of these narrators, all of these people who are, transferring the hadith from one person to another, and it allows them to determine whether a hadith is authentic or a hadith is weak. In fiqh, we began going into tahara. Can someone please define to me from the girls what is tahara? Yes, in the back. Excellent. So in the Arabic language, we mentioned tahara is being clean, cleanliness. But in Islam, we're specifically talking about two categories of tahara, and there is the spiritual tahara and the physical tahara. And we said spiritual tahara is from what? From the word. It's from shirk. And the physical tahara is from najas and hadath. And we defined what is najas and we defined what is hadath. Everybody here understands what is najas and hadath? Do we need to just quickly explain it? We mentioned najas is something physical. It's something filthy that you cannot have on your body or on your clothing or in the area of your prayer. Something filthy. And it needs to be physically removed. Hadath, is it physical? Hadath is not physical. I can't see hadath. I cannot lift and clean away hadath. Hadath is something that I need to purify myself from, either through wudu or ghusl. And what is the difference between minor and major hadath? I just kind of gave away the answer. Boys. No, hold up. Raise your hand. Someone other than the two in the front, because they already answered. Boys in the back, come on. I want some participation. Mahad, I know you know the answer. Come on. Okay. Chooses to stay silent. Wait, you want to answer again? Yes. Very good. Minor hadath, you need wudu. You need to do wudu, and then you become you remove the hadath. For major hadath, you need to perform ghusl. Now, what is, for those of you who don't know wudu, what is wudu? What is ghusl? What is hadath? What is the example of minor and major hadath? This is going to be covered later on, inshallah. But this is what you need to know for now. I forgot to put the answer. So, we mentioned last week a bunch of points of why is it important to learn the seerah. So someone just give me some reasons. Yes. Excellent. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was sent as a role model for us. So in the seerah, we get to see a living role model that we can follow. And we mentioned several reasons. The verses of the Quran, they gain context, they start to make sense, they gain meaning. The number one way to show someone that you love them is to learn about them. So how can a person say, oh, I love Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but then he doesn't know the basic information about him? So the way that you actually show and demonstrate that you truly have a love for your Prophet is by learning about him. And this is through the seerah. And through the seerah of the Prophet, you also learn through the seerah of the Sahaba. And of course, you get to see the development of Islam and the history of Islam. How did Mecca become the way it is? How did Medina become the way it is? And the last question, how does seerah help us to learn everything that we're learning today? Aqeedah and fiqh and hadith and even Quran. Boys, you're very quiet today. Someone raise your hand if you have the answer. Yes? It gives us context. You're correct. To phrase it in a little bit of a better way, you literally are seeing how Aqeedah was developed, how seerah, or not seerah, how fiqh came to be. Like we're talking about tahara today. How did this all come from? It came from the seerah. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught the Sahaba these things. He showed them these things. He showed them making wudu. He showed them making ghusl. He showed them all of these things. So the origin of everything you know in Islam is the seerah. And by studying the seerah, you get to see how Islam developed to become the way it is, and how the verses of Quran even got revealed. I keep forgetting to put the answers. So yeah, we learn about the development of Islam's and hadith and certain incidents and verses of Quran got revealed. Any questions before we get started? There's a lot of material to be covered today, so I want everyone's attention, inshallah. And I recommend all of you to have some notes or something that you can use to study the material. By the way, these lectures are being uploaded on YouTube. Okay, so if you go on YouTube and you just search my name, Omar Al Bastami, you will be able to find the previous lecture, last week's lecture, and this lecture also will be, inshallah, uploaded, just so that you can review the information, because I know it's a lot of information. So, let's begin by continuing with where we left off from Aqeedah. So last week we defined what is Aqeedah in terms of religion. We defined it in the Arabic language, right? We mentioned Uqda, Aqada, to bind something, right? We defined Aqeedah, and we defined Islamic Aqeedah. We defined the pillars of Iman, and we mentioned some different names for the word Islamic Aqeedah. Everybody is clear on this? No questions, no confusion? Okay. So now we move on to the next logical question. Now that we have defined Islamic Aqeedah, what's the point of Islamic Aqeedah? Why is it important for me to learn this? Like, what's the big deal whether I have, the 6 pillars of Iman, or whether I don't, or whether I'm lacking 1 or 2, or things like this? What's the point? Well, to phrase it very simply, only a true believer, so if someone who's a mu'min, a true believer, is someone who will fulfill all of these 6 pillars. Now, why is it important to have a healthy aqeedah in the first place? Well, this is the number one and, in fact, the most important point. Any good deed, in order for that deed to get accepted, a person needs to have a firm Islamic aqeedah. Someone who does not believe in Allah Azza wa Jal, their deeds are not accepted. So someone who has a problem in his faith, a problem and issue in the 6 pillars of Iman, this person is at a risk for his good deeds not to get accepted. And it doesn't matter how many good deeds you have. This person could be giving $1 million of donations every single day. This person could be reading Quran every single day. But if that person, for example, is not a true, he doesn't actually believe in Allah Azza wa Jal, well, it's a problem. It's a problem. So, and there's a lot of conditions for any good deeds, generally speaking, to be accepted. There's a lot of conditions. For example, in order for a deed to get accepted, you need to do that deed sincerely. You need to be mindful. You need to have an intention. You need to take that deed from the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But even all of this does not matter if a person does not have a healthy faith in Allah Azza wa Jal. So it is the primary condition for any good deed to be accepted. So for the person who has a firm Islamic aqeedah, on the day of judgment, when Allah puts all the deeds on the scales, then inshallah those deeds will actually have weight. Those deeds inshallah will be heavy on the scales. And inshallah, through the mercy of Allah, this person will be admitted into Jannah. Whereas a person can have mountains and mountains of good deeds, they will be worth nothing in the scales. They will have 0 weight on the scales if it lacks the primary condition, which is having a firm Islamic aqeedah. This is why this is a significant issue, or it's not an issue, it's a big deal. And you need to check your faith and ensure that you are upon a firm Islamic aqeedah. Now, a question that typically comes every now and then, especially here in the West. That, look, I know some people at school, they're not Muslim, but they're really, really really good people. They're very honest. They don't lie to others. They don't cheat. They're very generous. They're very kind. They're very helpful. They're just really, really, really nice people. And now you're saying the primary condition for these to be accepted is to have a firm Islamic Aqeedah. Are you saying that even those really, really kind and nice people, yeah, they're non-Muslim, but they're not going to have any of their deeds accepted, and that they're not going to be admitted into a Jannah? Like a single, not even a single deed. The scholars answer this question and they say, no, not a single one of their good deeds will be accepted. Meaning when they meet Allah on the Day of Judgment, they will have nothing on the Day of Judgment, no matter how good they were in this world. However, Allah is fair to everyone, and Allah rewards those who do good. But Allah does not reward them in the Akhirah, Allah rewards them in the Dunya. Meaning, you might find these people having a good life, living a happy life. They're generally speaking, they're healthy, they live a long life, they will have a lot of money, they will have a lot of houses, they will have big families. They're going to live a very comfortable and a nice and a cozy life. But that's only in this dunya. Once this life is over, they have no reward in the Akhirah. If you want Jannah, that has conditions. The primary condition for any deed to have a weight on the scales is to have a firm Islamic Aqeedah. This is the first reason why it is very important for us to educate ourselves and to check our faith and make sure that we are upon a firm faith in Allah Azza wa Jal. And everything that I have said is taken from the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالْإِيمَانِ فَقَدْ حَبِطَ عَمَلُهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Whoever rejects the faith, يَكْفُرْ بِالْإِيمَانِ, then all of his good deeds will amount to nothing. Habit, destroyed. And he shall be amongst the losers in the Akhirah. This is in the Quran. In another verse that in fact we recite every single Jum'ah, the conclusion of Surah Al-Kahf, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا. Is that it? No, there's another thing. وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. Meaning, if you want to meet your Lord, if you want to succeed, it's not just do a good deed. Don't just be a good person. You have to be a good person, and you should not associate any partners with Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He reveals it to the Prophet as well, speaking to the Prophet. وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ لَئِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ وَلَتَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. This is to the Prophet. Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, we revealed it not just to you, to also the previous people before you. If you associate anything with Allah Azza wa Jal, even you, O Prophet, that your deeds will be worthless. Nothing you're doing will matter anymore. This is to the Prophet. How about me and you? So this is all evidence that shows us the importance of holding to a firm Aqeedah. We learn from this that any good deed, we need to have a firm faith for that deed to be accepted. This is the first reason. The second reason, we have all heard and learned about Prophet stories before, to some extent. Some of us learned it in detail, some of us learned it to a surface level kind of information. And we've all heard, how certain messengers, they went to their tribe, they invited their people to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. They had these back and forth discussions between their people. In some cases, Allah even brought down miracles to show the people, and then usually the people end up rejecting and disbelieving, and then Allah sends down a punishment. And we all have heard many of these stories before, whether it is the story of Nuh alayhi salam and the flood, or how Prophet Saleh was sent to the tribe of Thamud, and how Allah brought the miracle of bringing the camel out from the rock, right? And then they still disbelieved after seeing this miracle. And so Allah brought this sayha, the loud sound, and it destroyed all of them. Or the people of Ad, whom Prophet Hud was sent to, and they were destroyed by the severe wind. And the list goes on. I don't need to list all the prophets down. So, and there's no doubt that there was a problem in all of these tribes which Allah mentions. The people of Ad, for example, were arrogant. They were proud of their strength. The people of Shu'aib, Ashabul Aykah, they were cheating. They were scamming people. The people of Lut, they're going to be stuck. They don't know homosexuals. Why? Right? Because they have no God to fall out to. We're all aware of these things. They have nothing. They feel pressured. So what do they do when there's a key fact that many people overlook in all of these stories? I need to forget. And immediately when you ask them about these stories, how do I go and forget these facts that I just told you? Let me go and drink an entire bottle of alcohol. To how the Quran get drunk and forget the words of life. Every single one of these stories. Or let me just go and start smoking. And you can go in the Quran, say it for yourself. And doing drugs. Just so that I can introducing the story of I want to dissociate from this life. I don't want to remember this life. Because when I remember this life, I feel so sad. Everything is so painful. I don't want to remember this life. I want to just. You have no God other than Allah else. This is exactly. Then he goes I'm telling you. Oh, you know, this is why people fall have so much strength. Look at you, you're so drug addictions, into alcoholism. This is why people fall into depression, arrogant, and all of these mental illnesses. This is why people fall into because they cannot take it anymore. That's introducing the story of whereas a Muslim who has a firm Islamic Aqeedah, yes, there's nothing wrong with crying. Yes, there is nothing wrong with feeling sad. This is natural. You have to be human. When someone passes away, yes, you feel sad. But is it the end of the world? No. A Muslim understands that okay, you know what? This person has left. Yes, I'm sad. I'm upset. Worship Allah. That's not the last time I'm going to see them. Be conscious of Allah. When am I going to see them again? What's common between all of these prophet stories? In Day of Judgment and inshallah in Jannah as well. What did you notice when I was reading all of these verses? Temporary life. What's common in all of these? Okay, you know what? This person whom I really love, you didn't notice anything or dad or someone else passed away. Yes. But they all began their message in the and then we're all going to die. Same way. And I'm not saying this as a source of depression. Did not go to his people and tell them, hey, it's just a fact. You should not be doing and then you're going to return to Allah Azza wa Jal. Prophet did not go to his people and say, you should stop scamming together forever. So a believer realized, Prophet Hud did not go to his people and say, you should stop being arrogant. Temporary situation where Allah part of the message. But that's not how the message started. The message started life. Oh my people, du'as for them. Worship Allah. Mercy on them, and you just move on. Worship Allah. It's a completely and do not associate any partners with Allah. Why? Oh my people, worship Allah. Do not worship these. The Aqeedah is different. So, and honestly, you are someone who believes the best example of these prophets that we are. Then you are also someone who believes in the message people of Palestine. Prophets and all of these prophets began the message the exact same way. Clips, and that is how an 8-year-old boy as well. Our Islamic Aqeedah. He has lost his mother and father. Does that and he has just finished burying his 6-year-old sibling. Now, and you also added he's smiling something in the bottom here. Because this is how you smile. The Quran sometimes references. The Quran sometimes uses in a few words. I'm the one who stuff you spoke in the Quran. The word, tahut. All you would see pictures or videos of an entire neighborhood, even some of that has been bombed to the ground. There's not a single building standing. Worship Allah and there's barely any food. There's barely any water. Now, what does the word no electricity mean? We should be aware of this. People having their chairs and children are running around and playing. These are video clips. You can look them up. You can see them on the internet. It's a verb that means to overstep your boundaries. You just lost everything. There's a certain limit. You've lost families. Allah's put a limit. Lost, but this person has your houses. Where you lost some of your own body parts. Done this verb. How are you smiling? So someone who is a absolutely nothing is defined as someone or have nothing, but we have Allah. It could be human as long as we have Allah, then everything is fine. Liked that these are people who faith is this? Like to be worshipped. What kind of Aqeedah is this other than Allah? That
makes
So,
a
for
person
example,
in the middle
we
of
can
a
give the example
genocide
of
and
a taghut.
bombing feel a sense of
Fir'aun.
happiness and
Fir'aun
peace.
literally came to his people and said,
continue
"Ana
to live their
rabbukum
life
al-a'la."
and smile
I am your
stay
God.
firm.
Astaghfirullah. Right?
And this
This
is
is what Fir'aun
something
says.
that
So Fir'aun is a
non-Muslims,
form
they
of a
don't
taghut.
understand.
Shaitan.
And this is why our
Shaitan is
Palestinian
a
brothers
taghut,
and sisters,
right?
they are currently
Because
giving the
he
strongest
commands you to
da'wah
associate
in the
partners with
world.
Allah, and he is happy
Even
to
though
do
they're
that.
not actually out there
Right?
giving da'wah,
So,
they are currently displaying the
and
strongest
honestly,
da'wah in the
frankly,
world.
even some
Because
of the kings in the
non-Muslims
rural
right
Australia,
now
Allah understand.
are
So
looking at
all
them,
of these are
and they are
examples of
wondering,
taghut,
how
and
can
all of
they
this, of
stay
course, is
patient
taken
like
from the
this?
Quran.
And they find out
Allah
that they're
says in
saying,
Surah
oh,
Al-Nahl,
it's because we believe in Allah.
وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا
Because of
فِي
this
كُلِّ
Quran.
أُمَّةٍ
Because we're
رَسُولًا
Muslim. Because
أَنْ
we believe in the
يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ
Akhirah and the Day of Judgment.
وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتِ.
And so they
We
start
have
reading about
sent
Islam.
a
And
messenger
we have
to
several
every
cases
single
here in the
community
South
saying,
Masjid,
"Oh,
people who have
oh
converted
my
to
people,
Islam
worship
because
Allah
of the people of
and
Palestine.
avoid the
This
taghut."
is what a
Again,
firm
look how
Islamic
Allah
Aqeedah
is
does.
specifying that the messengers
It is
began
a
their
source
message
of
worshipping
inner
Allah
peace.
Azza wa Jal. So
Then
honestly,
the
proceeding
people
to
of
the
Palestine
rest
are
of the message.
more than enough
And
evidence for
Allah
this.
Azza wa Jal also says
But
in
the
Surah
evidence is
Al-Anbiya,
also
وَمَا
in the Quran,
أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ
where Allah Azza wa
قَبْلِكَ
Jal, He says in
مِنْ
Surah
رَسُولٍ
Al-An'am,
إِلَّا
الَّذِينَ
نُوحِي
آمَنوا
إِلَيْهِ أَنَّهُ
وَلَمْ
لَا
يَلْبِسُوا
إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا
إِيمَانَهُم
فَاعْبُدُونِ.
بِظُلْمٍ
We have
أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ
never
الْأَمْنُ
sent
وَهُمْ
a
مُهْتَدُونَ.
messenger before
That
you,
the people who
O
are
Prophet Muhammad
believers,
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam,
and they did not accept
that we have
their
revealed to
belief
him that
with
there is no God
shirk,
except for me,
then those
so
people
worship me.
shall be given the security and the peace
So
of
this is
God.
the
Then those
primary
people shall be
message
given.
of all the prophets: worship
Sure.
Allah and do not worship anything
Another
else.
reason why we should be
Establishing again the
Aqeedah,
Islamic
and why it is
Aqeedah.
very important.
The word
It is
taghut sometimes is also mentioned
a
in Surah Al-Baqarah, for
source
example.
of
فَمَنْ
barakah.
يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ
Now,
بِاللَّهِ
I want to
فَقَدْ
spend a couple
اسْتَمْسَكَ
minutes here.
بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى لَا انْفِصَامَ
When
لَهَا.
I say source
That
of
whoever
barakah, what is barakah?
rejects
And I find this word
taghut
barakah is one of the most
and
misunderstood
firmly
words.
believes in Allah Azza wa
And the
Jal,
English
then
translation,
he
I do
has
not like the English
surely
translation.
grasped
Because when you translate
the
barakah, what does it
firm
tell you?
handhold,
Blessing.
a firm, unfailing
Tells you blessing.
handhold.
Well,
So
okay,
all
that's
of these
blessing.
are evidences from the Quran.
So
this is reason number
barakah
2. With me so far?
has a unique meaning.
The third reason why
Barakah,
it is really
you can
important
think
to
of
study
it
Islamic
as a
Aqeedah
special
and to
gift.
apply it. Okay?
It's a special
And this
gift
is
from
something
Allah
that
Azza wa Jal.
gives us,
When it is
a benefit for all of us.
onto something, because
It has an
a
effect on
source
it,
of
which
inner
causes
peace,
it to increase and to grow.
just like every single one of us
Even though
is in need
on the
of
outside,
air, that thing
you're
looks
in need
exactly
of
the same.
water, you're in
What
need
do I
of
mean by this?
food, and of all
I'll
of
give you some
these
examples.
life
There's
necessities.
barakah. Barakah can
These
be
are
applied
all
into anything.
physical necessities.
For example,
These are things
there
you
is
need to
barakah in
physically
time.
stay alive. Otherwise,
Okay?
your body will grow weak, and
Now, all of us
person will
here,
die.
we're experiencing the same
But
time.
Islamic
All of us
Aqeedah
have 24 hours in a day.
nourishes your
All of us have 7 days a
internal
week, right?
spiritual
365
necessities.
days a year. Why do I say this?
We're all experiencing exactly the same
Because
time.
every single human
However,
being,
whether it's Muslim or
not
non-Muslim,
everyone
this has nothing to do with Islam or
has the same
non-Islam.
weight in their time.
Every single
Why?
human being
You'll find some
who
people
has at least 2 brain cells, and this is Allah, it is a gift from
has
Allah to
probably
him.
wondered and asked
You will
themselves,
find them in 1
who has
hour.
created me?
They will accomplish
And why am I here in the first
what
place?
it takes other people 1
What's
week
my
to do.
purpose in existence?
And perhaps we maybe know
Or
of some
sometimes they
people.
see people
Die.
die. How are you doing
What
so much
happens to those people
in your time?
who die?
How do you have
Like what
so
happens?
much
Where
time
do they
to
go?
do everything? Everyone has.
And you still have some
these
time
kinds of
to relax.
questions.
And
Every
every
once
once in a while,
enough
Muslims
sleep.
or
And
non-Muslims,
you're accomplishing so much. How are you doing
Islamic
this?
Aqeedah gives us
Some
a sense
people,
of
Allah
peace
has
because it
granted barakah in their
answers
time.
all of these questions
Whereas
to
some
us
people, they have no
in
barakah
a certain
in their
extent.
time.
Where
There
did you
is
come from?
barakah
Well,
in
there's a
money.
creator. Allah Azza wa
And
Jal,
perhaps
He has
some of us
created you.
also may have
He has
experienced
created
this.
your soul.
Sometimes you may
And
not
then
have
an
that much
angel
money
came
in your
down
wallet.
when you were in your
Let's say
mother's womb, and he took your soul,
you have a
and then
$50
he blew bill in
and
your
then your soul
wallet,
entered your physical
and you
body.
go,
That's how you were
and you're
created.
spending,
Why
and
were
you're
you
buying,
created?
and you go to the
Allah Azza wa Jalla
stores,
says,
whatever,
وَمَا خَلَقْتُ
you give
الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ
sadaqah,
إِلَّا
you
لِيَعْبُدُونَ.
give this,
You have been
and that,
created to worship Allah.
and
Because there's going to
you
be
start feeling
a
I've
reckoning.
had
There's
this
going to be a
$50
day of
for a
judgment. There's going to be a
very long time.
grading. There's going to be a pass or a fail.
Like,
Jannah Jahannam.
I feel like I bought a lot of
What's
things.
going to
How
happen
is
after
it still
death?
there?
Well, we also know the angel of death is going to come
Barakah.
down. He's going to take your soul.
Barakah
You're going to
in
go
money.
you're going to have a
Whereas
life
some
in the
people,
grave.
they
You have a life in
might be
al-barzakh.
earning
Then you're going to be
thousands
resurrected on the day of judgment.
tens of thousands every
Then
single
there's going
month.
to be a reckoning.
Yet at the
And
end
there's
of the
going to
month,
be eternal,
they still have bills to pay.
eternal happiness or
And what they're
eternal
earning is not enough.
punishment.
Why?
So
Allah has
Islamic
taken away the barakah
Aqeedah
in their money.
comes down and answers all of these questions to us. Some people live a very long life. There's barakah in food. This is why some people, when a Muslim runs into difficulties every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they still don't feel full. Even though, yes, we struggle. Some people, they eat a little bit. Sometimes we feel upset. Alhamdulillah. Sometimes we find it heavy on us. Put barakah in their food. And this is why you make the dua. Someone who has a firm aqeedah will never find it in this food. Back to the point enough where they feel like giving up. So, I'll give you a simple example, and then I'll give you one of the sources of barakah. A simple example is having a firm faith in Allah Azza wa Jal, and indeed, a person is walking in the street. Where do I get this? And they're having a bad day, again, from the Quran. Weren't going for them well that day. In Surah Al-A'raf. And then, to make matters worse, Surah Al-A'raf, as they're walking, they trip, and they begins by talking about the story of Adam, flies out of their hand, and then from Jannah, and then it goes into the stories of the prophets. And this person is now, and then the conclusion of all of these stories, why is this happening to me? I'm the most unlucky person in the world. Of Ad and Thamud, someone who and all of these prophet stories. A true believer, if those people, yes, if while they had believed in Allah, and they had taqwa and mindfulness of Allah, there's something good. We wouldn't just have given them good and bad destiny. And we would have given them barakat. Allah's perhaps we will open the doors of barakah from the heavens and the earth. And Allah's testing my patience. They will have all the barakah in the world. I'm going to try and stay patient. They chose to and Allah will reward me. So, and inshallah, we dealt with them. A better situation. So what do we learn from this? ولو أن أهل القرى different reactions. And I know this was a very simplistic example. I'll give you a little bit of a more realistic example, factual example. So someone who has we all have faithfulness and mindfulness of Allah Azza wa Jal, and we are very close shall be given by the permission of Allah. That we don't lots of barakah in their life. And how would my life be without these people? Whether it is my mom or my dad, whether it is someone in your family, whether it is a very close friend that you have about this. And we'll continue our Aqeedah discussion. This is the fact of life. But I want you to remember these points and keep them in your mind. Now, what time you come to recheck your faith loses this. It comes with its benefits, really close inner peace, barakah, individual, all of these things. Well, again, this goes back to any questions, Islamic Aqeedah, before or to the Aqeedah that a person has in their heart. Or is everything clear? A disbeliever, this is the reality. And this is the fact. I'm talking about today's society, by the way. You can see this around you. Let's go into hadith. A disbeliever will fail. Last week I shared with you a hadith. Why is this happening? A very famous hadith, and we're going to discuss what has happened to this person today, inshallah. What's going to happen to me? How am I going to live my life now? Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhuma قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول بني الإسلام على خمس شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان. And in another different versions, the Hajj and the fasting, they are flipped. And this is a hadith that many of us, maybe this is the first time you're hearing the hadith, but you're familiar with the content of the hadith. So now, before I begin into the explanation of the hadith, I want to open up the opportunity. You don't have to come up, by the way. You can just stay in your seat and just stand up. For those of you who have done the research for your hadith, if you want to share what you've researched about the hadith, you can raise your hand. You want to try it out for today? And inshallah, we'll give you a small gift as well for doing that. Right, stand up, just stay in your seat. Just take out, do you have, you have to pull it up. I can't pull it up for you. Awesome. Taught us the pillars of Islam. Jazakallah khair. Perfect. That's all I'm asking, by the way, for the research. It doesn't have to be some detailed, mind-blowing, never heard before research. No, just a few things. Like, what do you think when you read this hadith? What are some few things that you understand? Maybe you go on Google. Maybe you listen to a sheikh talking about it on YouTube. Just give me a few things about what you understand. So it's very obvious. It is laying out the structure and the foundations of Islam, the 5 pillars of Islam. Now, before I actually jump into the hadith, I want to continue
laying down the foundations of the science of hadith before. So last week I mentioned about the chain of narrators, the isnad, right? And how scholars verify whether hadith is correct or not. So I want to talk a little bit about certain scholars of hadith that, in my opinion, every single Muslim should know. You should know these names, and you should, in fact, even know the books. You don't need to know the contents of the books, but you should at least know that they have certain books that they have written down. Very famous and big names of scholars. And these are arguably the biggest scholars of hadith that Islam has ever seen. Okay? And they have authored and written the most reliable books of hadith to this day. So, and there are six imams, six shuyukh, six scholars of hadith. And while most of us are familiar maybe with their last names or their title, you should try to also know their names. So the first name is the name that all of us probably have heard before. His name is Muhammad ibn Ismail ibn Ibrahim ibn al-Mughira ibn Bardizbah al-Bukhari. This is his full name. And by the way, interestingly, none of these scholars are Arab. None of these scholars are Arab. So therefore, my message to all of you, whether you are Arab or non-Arab, whether you speak Arabic or you don't speak Arabic, don't use that as an excuse. Don't use that as an excuse to say, oh, I can't learn. Because the biggest hadith scholars, none of them are originally Arab. Al-Bukhari is from the city of Bukhara. And we're going to talk about them individually one by one. Maybe every week we'll take one of them and talk about them. Al-Bukhari is from the city of Bukhara. And who knows, does anyone know where is the city? Yeah? Huh? Indonesia? No. Huh? No, not Egypt. He's not Egyptian. He's from Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan. That's where Al-Imam al-Bukhari is from. And of course, he has issued many books. Of them is the most authentic book of hadith. The most authentic book after the Quran. And that is Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari. The other scholar, the second scholar that we should all be also familiar with, his name is Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj ibn Muslim ibn Ward al-Qushayri al-Nisaburi, from the city of Nisabur. Who knows where is Nisabur? Nisabur is in Iran. The majority of these people are actually, by the way, like Persian. They're like, you've come from the area of Iran. So Nisapur, so this is Imam Muslim, so aka Imam Muslim, and who has written, of course, Sahih Muslim. The third scholar, I try to memorize these names, and maybe not the full name that I'm saying to you, but at least even the names that I have written down up here. His name is Muhammad ibn Isa ibn Sawra ibn Musa as-Sulaymi at-Tirmidhi, also known as Al-Imam at-Tirmidhi. And he is from the city of Tirmidh. City of Tirmidh, which is also in Uzbekistan. Okay? And he has issued, of course, a lot of books of the famous books of hadith, Sunan at-Tirmidhi, or Jami' at-Tirmidhi. Right? The fourth scholar, his name is Sulaiman ibn al-Ash'ath ibn Ishaq al-Azdi al-Sijistani, also known as Abu Dawud. So, and he has issued the Sunan of Abu Dawud. So this is Imam Abu Dawud. This is his actual name, Sulaiman ibn al-Ash'ath. Okay? And he is from the city of Sistan, which is in Iran. The fifth scholar that you should memorize and know, his name is Ahmad ibn Shu'aib ibn Ali ibn Sinan ibn Bahr ibn Dinar al-Khurasani al-Nasa'i, also known as Al-Imam al-Nasa'i, from the city of Nasa, and that city is in Turkmenistan, which is all close to they're all close to each other. Okay? And the last of the six big scholars of hadith, his name is Muhammad ibn Yazid ibn Majah al-Rab'i uh, al-Rab'i al-Qazwini, from the city of Qazwin, which is also in Iran. Okay? So these are the six famous scholars of hadith. And they have issued the major books of hadith that to this day we all rely upon. Okay? Now it doesn't mean that everything that you hear from these people is authentic. Okay? So some people, just because they hear Al-Bukhari, they're like khalas, 100% authentic. Or just because they hear Muslim, oh, definitely authentic. This is not correct. Okay? You have to check, is this hadith sahih or not? Okay? And we'll talk about this in more detail in the next few weeks. So all of these are very, very remarkable scholars. And they wrote what we call the six books of hadith, which are the Sahih of Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan Ibn Majah, Jami' al-Tirmidhi, and Sunan al-Nasa'i. Right? These are the six famous books of hadith. And all of them, and I'm really summarizing over here, we'll go into more details probably in the following weeks, they dedicated their lives for this deen. Obviously, otherwise their names would not have been mentioned to this day and become so famous. They dedicated their lives for the religion of Allah. And all of these people, by the way, they lived between 200 and 300 Hijri. So they lived over 1,000 years ago. Yet to this day, no Muslim doesn't know Imam al-Bukhari. Subhanallah. Allah has given them so much barakah in their time, in their work, in their memory. For example, Imam Bukhari had a very remarkable memory. He did not need to write things down, he would just remember them. So Bukhari, for example, and all of these, they had a very profound memory, they had a profound love and dedication for the religion, and obviously they had a profound love for the knowledge of hadith. And they spent their life essentially traveling from one place to another. They never settled in one place. They would always be traveling and collecting hadith. Back then, there were no books of hadith. So they were amongst the first to collect hadith and to create books. Okay? So they spent their life traveling from one place to another. So for example, whether they start from Uzbekistan or Iran or whatever, they would travel to different locations. They would travel, for example, to Baghdad, they would travel to Kufa, they would travel to Medina, they would travel to Mecca, they would travel to Egypt, they would travel all over the place, all over the Muslim lands, and they met up literally with thousands of scholars, and they also taught thousands of scholars, and they collected thousands and thousands of hadiths, and they verified every single one of them, sahih or weak, authentic or weak, and they put different grades for every hadith, and they compiled these books that we know today. And subhanallah, despite them writing these books literally over 1,000 years ago, look how much Allah has blessed their work. Every single hadith probably I've taken so far is taken from an Imam al-Bukhari. That means every single time you say a hadith or read a hadith, that is a good deed that is given to Imam al-Bukhari. You try now to imagine how many good deeds this man has collected. In his grave, he's not even alive, he's been dead for over 1,000 years. Over the past 1,000 years, how many people have studied hadith? How many people continue to teach hadith? 2024, we're sitting in the South Masjid basement, we're teaching hadith. How many good deeds are these big scholars collecting, subhanallah? Now, And before I move on, it's just a small comment. It's a necessary comment. Today, 2024, Alhamdulillah, you no longer have to make the same journeys that these scholars did. Nobody's telling you go travel to Mecca and Medina and to Iraq and to Egypt and to Yemen and to Iran and all of these different places just so that you can study and collect the hadith. That work has been done for you. And in fact, nowadays you could just open up your phone in less than a minute. Open your phone, go to the Apple Store or to the Google Play Store and download, just look up hadith collections, and you will download all of these books of hadith. And you will have access to every single hadith in existence with a touch of a finger. Yet the sad reality is, how many people today study even hadith? How many people today have even opened these books? Have even attempted to open these books or to read them? And they say, oh, I'm too busy. Oh, what are you busy doing? Oh, you know, playing Call of Duty and watching movie and watching Netflix. You see, subhanAllah, once upon a time, the world believed that if the internet becomes a thing, that human beings will become more intelligent. Because everyone will have access to all kinds of books online. If only those people can look at 2024 and see what has internet done for mankind. And I would say arguably mankind has become a little bit less intelligent, and it's actually not a little bit, it's a lot less intelligent. So subhanAllah, within 1,000 years we went from a generation that gives birth to people like Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim and Abu Dawood to a generation that memorizes TikTok dances and Fortnite dances. This is the sad reality of the times that we are living in. Anyhow, you know what? I don't want to keep going, otherwise I won't stop. So, back to the hadith. The narrator of hadith. So, as we did last week, every week we're going to study who is narrating this hadith. His name is Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab. And obviously, it's very obvious, he is the son of the famous Umar ibn al-Khattab. And he is also known as Abu Abdul Rahman. He's known as Abu Abdul Rahman. His mother is a lady by the name of, a Sahabiya by the name of Zainab binti Mad'un, who is the sister of the famous Sahabi, Uthman ibn Mad'un. And when Umar ibn Khattab accepted Islam, we all know, we'll cover the story of Umar ibn Khattab later in the seerah. But when Umar ibn Khattab accepted Islam, Abdullah was still a young child. So Abdullah was a child, less than 10 years old when he accepted Islam. And so naturally, when Umar ibn Khattab did the hijrah from Mecca to Medina, Abdullah also migrated from Mecca to Medina, and he was still just a little boy. Okay? And when certain major battles started taking place, like for example the Battle of Badr, who can remind me what year of hijrah did the Battle of Badr take place in? Let's hope we get this one right. We just spent 2 years talking about the seerah. The Battle of Badr. Which year? Stop talking, akhi. Please stop talking. Yes. Second, jazakumullah khair. Ya akhi, yani you showed up to every single class. How are you getting these questions wrong? Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Anyways, Battle of Badr, second year. By the time of the Battle of Badr, Abdullah ibn Umar, he was not allowed to participate. Why? Because he was still a very young child. He was only 13 years old, and he was not allowed to participate. Even though he was very eager, but he was not allowed. And even the next year, the third year, when the Battle of Uhud took place, Abdullah ibn Umar also was not allowed to participate, once again because he was too young. He was only 14 years old. Then the Battle of Khandaq took place, the Battle of the Trench. When did the Battle of the Trench take place? Stop talking, don't answer. You're not allowed to answer your questions anymore. Huh? 13th? Allahu Akbar. The Battle of the Trench, the Battle of the Khandaq. I'm about to cry, akhi. Fifth, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It's like I didn't even teach the seerah. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Fifth year is the Battle of Khandaq. By the fifth year, Abdullah ibn Umar was old enough to participate. So this was his first major battle. And since that battle, he took place in almost every single significant battle, including, the conquest of Mecca, including, the Hudaybiyah, including, even a lot of the battles that took place after the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu the conquest of Rome, the conquest of Persia. He was also there in the Battle of Mu'tah, for example. So he participated in a lot of the major battles after this. And he spent the majority of his life acquiring knowledge. He was very passionate about gaining knowledge. So he spent a lot of time around Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, gaining knowledge from him. And of course, naturally, as someone who is constantly around Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he became a very big narrator of hadith. In fact, he is the second top. If you were to rank all the narrators of hadith, Abu Hurairah is number one. There's no competition with Abu Hurairah. Then second place, you have Abdullah ibn Umar. And he has narrated 2,286 hadith. 2,286. By the way, third place is the person we discussed last week, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. He is the third place. Abdullah ibn Umar is the second place. So, and Abu Hurairah, by the way, does anyone have an idea how many hadiths Abu Hurairah narrated? 1,000? I'm telling you, Abu Hurairah is first place. You tell me 1,000? Abu Hurairah narrated over 5,300 hadiths. There is no competition between first place and second place. Second and third place, they're close. They're very close to each other. They're like less than 100 hadith apart. But first place, Abu Hurairah takes the rank one by a very long shot. Now, despite Abdullah ibn Umar narrating tons of hadiths, he was actually more known for the knowledge of fiqh that he had. He was very, very knowledgeable in fiqh, and he had a deep understanding in Islamic rulings. And this is why he was the mufti, you can say, of Medina. Many people would come to Abdullah ibn Umar for fatwas. They would ask him questions about Islamic rulings. They would ask him questions about certain situations that they have in their life, and what am I supposed to do? Is this allowed? Is this not allowed? Abdullah ibn Umar, he would answer these kind of questions. And he lived in Medina, and he so basically stayed in Medina for 60 years of his life, continuing to give fatwas to people. So he was a very big scholar in Medina. Now, towards the end of his life, it is mentioned that he lost his sight and he traveled back to Mecca, his original home. And in Mecca, in the 73rd year of the Hijrah, he would be killed by the order of a tyrant at the time who was known by Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf. So Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, he was doing a lot of things, killing. He killed some of the Sahaba as well. So Abdullah ibn Umar spoke against him. And just like the kings and the tyrants we see today, Al-Hajjaj, he sent someone to go and kill him. And so Abdullah ibn Umar, he was actually killed in Mecca. And he was buried in Mecca, and he passed away between the age of 85 to 87 years old. And he was of the last Sahaba to pass away in Mecca. This is Abdullah ibn Umar. By the way, a snippet of a story. So you want the full story, you can go and you can read about the stories of the Sahaba. Now back to the actual hadith itself. We learn a very foundational and a fundamental concept in Islam that almost every single one of us has heard before, but is worth revisiting again. And that is the pillars of Islam. The pillars of Islam. And we're going to briefly discuss all 5 of them, and mainly the first 2. And we'll breeze through the last 3 of them. Now, why are they called pillars? Notice the wording of the hadith, Buni al-Islam. And by the way, all of these hadiths that I'm sharing with you, I highly encourage you to go and memorize them. Memorize them. Don't just listen to them and just... I encourage you to memorize and even try to memorize the Arabic. even try to memorize the Arabic. These are very fundamental and well-known ahadith. So it says Buniya al-Islam. Buniya is coming from the word bana. It means like a construction, like it's like you're building a building. A building today, if a construction worker wants to build a building or a company wants to create a building, they start with the foundational pillars. Without these pillars, the building cannot last. The building cannot stand up without these foundational pillars. If you take them out, the building is going to collapse. No matter what material you use at the top, whether you make it out of the most expensive building materials, whether you make it the most fancy and beautiful looking building, or no matter how tall you make the building, that building is not going to last. It's going to collapse. Why? Because it doesn't have the basic foundation. How is this building expected to stand firm? Well, such are the pillars of Islam as well. Without these pillars of Islam, a person cannot say, I'm a Muslim. You cannot have Islam without them. If you do not have these 5 pillars of Islam. And once again, I'll bring the example that he put in Aqeedah, that a person could be donating $1 million, or they could be doing 1 million istighfars a day. In fact, I can take someone, one of these celebrities from Hollywood, and I can pay them $50 million, and I am very sure that they will memorize the Quran better than me and you, if they need to do it for a movie. And you pay them $50 million, they will memorize the Quran better than me and you. They will memorize it with the 10 recitations as well. This is true. But will their Quran get accepted? No. No. Because not only are they lacking the Islamic Aqeedah, but there are no foundations. They are not even Muslim. They cannot call themselves a Muslim. So it doesn't matter. All of these donations, all of this Quran, all of this istighfar is just like the stuff that you put on top of the foundations of the building. It's like the fancy material you build on top. You're just making the building taller. You're just making the building sound or look fancier. But the reality is, the building has no foundations. The building is only going to collapse. So this is why this hadith is a very important, and it's even not just important, it's a foundational hadith. The foundation of Islam is built upon this hadith. So let's dive into the pillars one by one. The first pillar, of course, is ash-shahadatan. Ash-shahadatan. And it is the greatest pillar of Islam. And in fact, it is the gate to the rest of the pillars of Islam. It's the gateway to the remaining pillars of Islam. Now, what do the shahadatain or the shahadatan mean? It means the 2 shahadas, or the 2 testimonies of faith, to testify that there is La ilaha illallah, there is no God except for Allah, and Muhammadun Rasulullah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these are the 2 shahadas, and every single one of us are familiar with this. We know the 2 shahadas. This pillar is the key to all the remaining pillars of Islam. Why do I say this? Because if you do not have this pillar, then the rest of the pillars don't even matter. You cannot pray 5 times a day and give zakah and fast Ramadan and perform hajj, but you don't believe in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. It doesn't matter. The Islam is not there. This is the biggest and the greatest pillar of Islam. Even if a person prays all the 5 prayers a day, with all their sunnah prayers, and they pray at night, and they give $1 million of zakah every single year, that does not matter if this pillar of Islam is missing. Now, similarly speaking, if someone says the 2 shahadas, and says La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, but then does something that goes against these 2 statements, these 2 shahadas, once again, their Islam is not accepted. The Islam collapses. There is no Islam for this person. For example, you cannot have someone come to the masjid and mashallah, they grab the mic and they say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. But then they say, you know what?
I'm gonna try and go Sunday to the church, and I wanna try praying with the Christians. I wanna try and sing and clap with them in the church, and do this and that. What are you doing? You just declared La Ashhadu. You said, I testify there's no God but Allah. And now you're going to the church where they associate partners with Allah. This goes against the two shahadas. Therefore, this person is not considered a Muslim. This person is considered as a disbeliever because they're associating a partner with Allah. Okay. All of this is well understood. Okay. What if a person only believes in one of the two shahadas? Let's say I believe La ilaha illallah. I believe there's only one God and only one creator, and that is Allah Azza wa Jal. But Muhammadun Rasulullah, I don't know about that one. Okay? Is this a person considered to be a Muslim or not? The majority of scholars, they say, no, this person is not a Muslim. The majority of scholars, they say, this person is not a Muslim. You have to do both testimonies of faith, otherwise this person cannot be considered a Muslim. And they base this upon an evidence. They base this upon an authentic hadith, where Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he says, أُمِرْتُ أَنْ أُقَاتِلَ النَّاسَ حَتَّى يَشْهَدُوا أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَأَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. I have been commanded to fight the people until they testify La ilaha illallah. Is it and or? And Muhammadun Rasulullah. It's not an or. It's not La ilaha illallah or Muhammad Rasulullah. It's and. Both of them are required. Meaning if someone does not meet both requirements, he's gonna fight them until he testifies it. So they say someone who does not have these two shahadas, you cannot say that they are a Muslim. They are not Muslims. So if a person truly believes in heart, they have a firm Islamic Aqeedah, and the Shahada obviously is linked to Islamic Aqeedah because it's a faith, it's a testimony of faith, of Iman. If they truly believe La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, then according to our Islamic Aqeedah, this person shall eventually enter Jannah. Inshallah. This person will eventually enter Jannah even if that person has a lot of sins. Okay? So maybe this person is a criminal. Okay? He's killed people. He's shot people. He's harmed people. He's stolen money from people. He's robbed people before. Okay, obviously this person has done a lot of major sins. Maybe this person has even drank alcohol. Astaghfirullah. He's done a lot of major sins. But he believes in La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. According to scholars, they say this person, with the mercy of Allah, will eventually enter Jannah. Eventually. Notice the wording here. Eventually. Meaning, they might not enter immediately. Meaning Allah might choose to punish them in Jahannam for a certain period of time. How long? Allahu A'lam. Could be 1 year, 10 years, 1,000 million years, I don't know. But they will not spend an eternity in Jahannam. Eventually they will be taken out and they will be placed into Jannah because of the famous hadith where Allah Azza wa Jal, He Himself says when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is begging Allah Azza wa Jal to have mercy on the people on the Day of Judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal, He will command and say, take out from Jahannam any person who has even the tiniest bit of La ilaha illallah in their hearts. So such people, by the mercy of Allah, they will be taken out and admitted into Jannah. Clear? These are the Shahadatayn. The next pillar of Islam, as we are aware, as-salah. Prayer, establishing the prayer. And this is the next most important pillar of Islam. And by the way, the hadith, the order that the hadith puts, the shahada and the salah and the zakah and all of these things, it's not a random order. It's put from most important to least. Right? Not to say that the least important are not important, but the most important are shahada, then the salah. Okay? And the wording here, pay attention to it. Establishing the prayer. Iqamatul salah. Iqamis salah. It's not offering the prayer. The pillar does not say you need to offer 5 prayers a day. and this is a misunderstanding amongst many Muslims. They say, oh, the pillar of Islam, oh, I just need to pray 5 times a day. No, 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 no. You need to establish prayer 5 times a day. And there's a difference. Because not everyone who offers prayer is establishing the prayer. But everyone who is establishing prayer is offering the prayer. What do I mean by this? What does establishing prayer mean? Establishing prayers means fulfilling the condition of all the prayers, conditions of a prayer, and also fulfilling all the essential and obligatory parts of the prayer. For example, there are conditions and obligations within the prayer. For example, are you praying with mindfulness? Do you have khushu' in your prayer? Are you paying attention in your prayer? Or is your mind somewhere else? You're saying, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I wonder what my mom cooked for lunch today. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Oh man, that soccer finals game tomorrow, it's going to be crazy. Insane. I can't wait to see it. Maliki Yawmiddin. Where's your brain? Is your mind in the salah or is your mind elsewhere? Are you just doing the physical movements? You're just doing yoga, like just moving up and down, bowing, doing prostration and stretching your muscles? Or are you actually establishing the prayer? This is what establishing the prayer means. This is what it includes. Do you have the conditions of prayer? Do you have tahara? Did you perform wudu correctly? Did you perform did you remove the hadath correctly? Do you have any najasa on you? Tahara, we're covering this in fiqh right now. All of these fall into the conditions and the essential parts of the prayer. Are you taking your time in your prayer? Or Allahumma barik, you're trying to set the world record in the fastest dhuhr prayer that you have ever prayed in your life. So all of these fall into establishing the prayer. So we have to be mindful. The pillar of Islam here is not saying to just pray the prayer. No. To offer the prayer. No. To establish the prayer. And this is the wording that the Quran uses. Iqam as-salah. Iqam as-salah wa ita az-zakah. Right? Now, what if I am someone who frequently misses the prayers? Or what if I'm lazy and I miss my prayers? Maybe because I'm playing Fortnite, or maybe I was watching YouTube, or I was just really lazy. I was hanging out with my friends and I didn't feel like going to pray, or I'm at school and I missed my prayers. The sad reality nowadays, we've made it into not that big of a deal. And we just have this mindset that, I missed the prayer. I'll just make it up later. Realize you are now in big danger. You are right now in very big danger. You're not in the green zone. You're not in the yellow zone. You are in the red zone. Why? Because some scholars, they go as far as to say, someone who leaves the prayer, pay attention to this, even if it is out of laziness, this person is no longer a Muslim. And this person has to re-accept Islam. He needs to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Can you imagine this? Meaning, according to those scholars, if a person misses the prayer without an excuse, and they die, they don't even offer them a janazah. They don't even take them to pray janazah on them. They don't bury them as Muslims. They don't make a dua for them or make istighfar for them. Why? Because they say they did not die upon Islam. This is why I'm saying it's a very big deal. It's a very, very, very big deal. Do you understand how significant this is? Unfortunately, we've made it into not a big deal. Just make it up later. How do you guarantee yourself to live till later? Is this the state? Is this how flimsy your Islam is? That you accept and you leave Islam several times a day? You become kafir then Muslim, then kafir then Muslim, then kafir then Muslim. And by the way, this is not just a random opinion. This is they have a strong evidence because they take the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he says, "Bayna al-rajuli wa bayna al-kufri tarku as-salah." between a believer and the difference between a believer and a disbeliever is leaving the prayer. Meaning someone who leaves the prayer becomes a disbeliever. Okay? And even those scholars who say that a person who leaves the prayer, because some scholars they say no, he doesn't become a kafir. They still say it is a very major sin. It is a very major sin. And you need to make sincere tawbah to Allah Azza wa Jal. So think twice next time before you take that decision that I want to just let go of my prayer. That, oh, Asr prayer, oh, you know what, I'm at school. I'm sure Allah will understand my situation. Oh, I'm a little busy right now. I can't leave what I have in front of me. Oh, I have work. Oh, I have homework. I'm with my friends. It's too awkward right now. Think very carefully. How do you want to end up? You have the choice, and you will be questioned by Allah about the choices that you are making. Why are you putting yourself in a position where the scholars are having debate about you? Are you a Muslim or are you a kafir? Okay, so don't take your prayers lightly. There are only 5 prayers a day. They will take you a grand total of 20 minutes maybe out of your whole day to fulfill. Are you this careless that you don't care about how you end up in your akhirah? So I want all of you right now, all the boys and all the girls right now, you don't have to say anything out loud. Just think about how you deal with your prayers. And if you recognize yourself as someone who is careless with prayers, right now, don't say anything, but make a pledge with Allah Azza wa Jal. That, oh Allah, you know what? From this today on, I'm not going to take my prayers carelessly anymore. And I'm going to take better care of my prayer. I'm going to be more vigilant to not miss my prayer and to take better care of them. And may Allah make us all steadfast and protect us with our prayers. So anyhow, let's move on, just so that we don't run out of time. The next 3 pillars we'll be doing together, inshallah, because we're not going to dive into them. We're not going to go into the details. And we're all aware, the remaining pillars, these are the paying the zakah and fasting the month of Ramadan and performing the hajj, if you are able to do so. So let's quickly take them one by one. So paying the zakah, if you are eligible to pay the zakah. Because, and we'll go into this later in the future, in order for you to be obligated to pay the zakah, there has to be a bare minimum of money. So for someone who is, for example, someone who is broke, someone who is poor, Allah does not burden them. Allah does not say that, oh, you have to still pay. They don't have to pay. But someone who has money and they're living, mashallah, nice life, then most likely they're going to have to pay this zakah every year, once every year. The next pillar, we're all aware of fasting the month of Ramadan. And again, it's only obligated for the person who has the health to do so. And even the person who doesn't have the health, like someone, for example, okay, they're very, very old and they have certain diseases and they have to take certain medications and they cannot fast. They still have to do other actions to make up for their fasting. So they don't have to fast, but for example, they have to feed poor people every single day. Okay? And of course, performing the hajj, if the person has the physical health and has the financial ability to do so, then this person must not delay their hajj. They have to go and perform hajj. Only when a person combines all of these pillars together can a person truly say that I am a Muslim. But if any person rejects any of these pillars, and when I say they reject the pillar, I don't mean they don't do them. They still do them, but they're saying, oh, they're not obligatory. They say, oh, you know what? I'm still going to fast Ramadan because everyone else is doing it, but I don't believe fasting in Ramadan is an obligation, Then scholars agree that this person has committed an act of kufr. Why? Because by you saying that I don't believe fasting is an obligation, you have now just said that the Quran is telling you lies. Astaghfirullah. Because it's very clear in the Quran. The Quran is very, very, very clear. It's very simple language that praying is obligatory, zakah is obligatory, and Hajj and Ramadan, and all of these acts are an obligation found very, very clearly in the Quran. There are no differences in opinions in any of the scholars. So there's no difference in these things. And if all of these pillars of Iman are established externally, and a person has a strong Islamic Aqeedah in their heart, and this is something we'll go into more details next week, inshallah, it's related to the next hadith. A person who fulfills these pillars of Islam is called a Muslim. However, a person who fulfills these pillars, in addition to the pillars of Iman, is called a Mu'min. What is the difference between Muslim and Mu'min? This is something that we will discuss next week. Heads up, don't be scared when I flip to the next slide. This is a hadith that all of you are probably very familiar with. This is the famous hadith of Jibreel. So a lot of you are already familiar with it. If you're not familiar with it and this is the first time you're seeing it, it's a really easy hadith. So don't get deceived by this massive paragraph, okay? It's actually a very easy hadith. This is your homework for next week, to go and research this hadith and mention and summarize what benefits you learned from the hadith, and we'll discuss it next week. Any questions before we move on? Any questions about any Aqeedah or the hadith that we mentioned, or the hadith collectors, or Bukhari, or whatever? Yes, red hat. Yeah. You said you're not supposed to more things. How are you supposed to not? Okay, yes, we're all human beings. Okay, there is no single imam in the world who is like 100% in the prayer and they can maintain full focus in the prayer. Okay, but at the same time, you have to try your best. Okay, so one thing you can do, the best thing you can do, especially for the boys, come to the masjid. If you come to the masjid, there's no distractions around you. Because if you're in your room and you're praying, and there's a cell phone behind you, you have your PlayStation next to you, you have distractions around you, you're not going to be able to focus as much. So set up the environment for you to be able to focus. Okay? Ideally, do the sunnahs. If there's a sunnah prayer, perform the sunnah prayers. If you come to the masjid, perform the 2 rak'ahs of entering the masjid. Why? Because it's almost like a warm-up for the actual prayer. It gets you in the zone for when the actual prayer. Do some adhkar, for example, before your prayer. Okay? So there's several things that you can try to do to stay focused. Nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. But you can do the best of your ability. Okay? Questions? Any other questions before I move on? Yes, question. 2 questions. First question. So from an Arabic language, again, a'taqid comes from the word, from aqada, which means like certainty. It comes from certainty. So this is slang out of Arabic. Okay? When someone says a'taqid and he says I think, this is now slang Arabic. This is not lugha Arabiya. Make sense? No. I'm not saying don't think about anything. Think about the actual prayer. Like let's say you're reading Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Think about what you're reading, akhi. Alhamdulillah, all gratitude and all praises belong to Allah Azza wa Jal. Rabbil Alameen, the Lord who has provided everything for me. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Allah is so merciful to me. So think about the verses you are reading. And this is part of the reason why when you memorize Quran, try to memorize or just read the translation of what you are memorizing, so that when you use it in the salah or when you hear it in the salah, you're not just hearing gibberish, you're actually understanding what you're hearing. Right? The same thing when you're saying Allahu Akbar and you're saying Subhana Rabbi Al-Azim, you're thinking about the greatness of Allah. You're down in sujood, Subhana Rabbi Al-A'la, you're thinking about the blessings of Allah. So think about Allah Azza wa Jal. So focus on what you are doing in the prayer itself. This will really, really boost your khushu'. Okay? Question? You had a question? Yes.
So the person who has missed, so what I explained applies to someone that the obligatory prayer, it entered in the time, you had the chance to pray it, but you just didn't do it, and then the time was over. Okay? This is what some scholars say, this person is disbeliever now. Okay? Now, um, making up the prayer, this is now also a difference between scholars. Some scholars, they say, if you miss the prayer out of laziness, you cannot make it up even. Because khalas, it's gone. You were too lazy to pray, you can't make it up anymore. And you just have to make sincere tawbah to Allah that you're not going to miss prayers again. Okay? So, and that's why I said, stay away from this difference as far as possible and just perform the prayer on time. Make sense? Does that answer the question? Any other questions? Yes, question. Boys, please, don't move around. Yes. I can't hear you, sorry. Can someone just tell me what she's saying because I cannot hear. So there's different kinds of calendars, right? There's different kinds of calendars. There's what we call the Hijri calendar, which is the lunar calendar, and that has been, and people are recording it down. Okay? And then there is the different calendar that you're used to, 2024. Both are correct, okay? It's not like, yeah? That's the non-Hijri calendar. That's the Gregorian calendar that we use in schools and in majority places in the world. That's how they used to measure the months and the days and the time, right? There's nothing wrong with it. We have a Hijri calendar, and you want to use that one, that's fine. But whether you use this or this, the main purpose is that you know, okay, when is Friday? Like if I ask you what's tomorrow? Sunday. How do you know that? Because you have a calendar. Whether you're using this one, you're using that one, it gets you the information that you need. Make sense? Okay. Other questions? Okay, move on. You have a question or okay no? Okay, let's do some questions. And then I have to speed up a little bit because we still have a lot to cover. I think did we start with the boys? I think we started with the girls. A disbeliever who is really generous and kind does not have their deeds accepted. Why? Yes? Very good. The primary condition we mentioned for any good deeds to be accepted is to have a firm Islamic Aqeedah. So a disbeliever does not have an Islamic Aqeedah. Next question, boys. What is Taghut? Someone other than this brother in the front, mashallah, has been answering all the questions. Yes? Yes? Someone who, or anything, anyone or anything who likes to be worshipped besides Allah while being happy with it. You know, like they don't find a problem with it. Like Fir'aun, like Shaitan, right? How does a firm Islamic Aqeedah grant inner peace? How is it a source of inner peace? Girls. Yes, Maryam in the front. Yes? Jazakumullah khair. Very good. It answers to us questions that we will never be able to know had Allah not told us the answers to these questions. And as a result, when we go through difficulties in our life, we find a source of patience. Okay? How is barakah linked to Islamic Aqeedah? Boys. Yes? Yes? Rahim, yes? Good. So meaning, if they have a firm Islamic Aqeedah, it is a source of more barakah, right? So having a firm Islamic Aqeedah is a source of abundant barakah in everything: time, food, water, life, anything. Girls, name three of the famous collectors of hadith. Someone was not answered. Yes, Sarah on the front. Yes. Al-Bukhari, Muslim, At-Tirmidhi. Very good. I recommend you try to memorize their names, but if you can't, then at least know their imam names, you know. Al-Bukhari is, well, it's actually not a Nisapur, it's a Muslim. I don't know why it's a Nisapur. A Muslim, At-Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, and Nasa'i, Ibn Majah. Can a person give only one testimony of faith or shahada instead of doing both? Why or why not? Boys. Yes, in the back. Very good. Both testimonies are required for a person to be a Muslim, and the evidence is in the hadith of Prophet Muhammad, which I mentioned. What does it mean to establish prayer? Girls. Yes? Mhm. So to fulfill all the conditions and the obligatory portions of prayer, right? To offer the prayer on its time with all these different conditions and portions. Is a person who rejects one of the pillars of Islam but still does it considered a believer? Why or why not? Boys. Yes. So you're correct. You're correct. It's because it's very clear in the Quran. Things are obligations. And by you saying that, oh no, it's not an obligation, you have just disbelieved in the Quran, right? This is wrong. This is a problem. This is a problem. So it is considered an act of kufr. Okay? Any questions? Okay. For this next part, I really need you to pay attention. Okay? You need to focus. Okay? I'm sorry. You need to focus for this next part. Otherwise, you're going to get lost. So this is your warning right now. For those of you who are talking, I recommend you stop talking now and start paying attention, because otherwise, I promise you, you will get lost and you're not going to know what's going on. Okay? Last week we defined tahara, and we defined the two categories of tahara, and we defined physical tahara and spiritual tahara, and we mentioned physical tahara, you need to remove hadath and you need to remove najas. And we mentioned the difference between minor and major hadath. One you need wudu and one you need ghusl. Anyone has any questions about this so far? It's very clear, right? We explained this in a lot of detail last week. So, in order to make wudu or to perform ghusl, what do you need? Water. Yes, you need water. So today we're actually going to talk about water. Why are we going to be talking about water? You're going to see. And believe me, you need to pay attention, otherwise you're going to get lost. Okay? I've warned you like 5 times already. So water is split into two kinds. There is tahur water and there is najas water. So there is pure water that we can use for tahara, and there is najas or impure water which cannot be used for anything. Okay? Today we're going to study tahur water. And please memorize this term tahur. Today I'll have pure and next to it tahur, but starting from next class, I'm only going to use the word tahur. When I say tahur, you need to understand I'm talking about the pure water that can be used for tahara. Okay? So tahur water is water that I can use for tahara, meaning it is water that I can be using to clean the najas or to remove the najas, and to purify from major and minor hadath. This is pure water, okay? But what defines pure water? How do I know a water is pure water? Is every single water in the world pure water? No. So what is pure water? Pure water, to make it very, very simple, is water that remains the same way that Allah Azza wa Jalla has created it, without anything mixing with it, causing it to change its three qualities of color or smell or taste. You got that? So something that, any kind of water that is the same water that Allah has created without any changes happening to it, and nothing has caused it to change its water, its color, its smell, or taste. This is what we define as pure water. What do I mean by remaining the same way that Allah has created it? Meaning anything that comes down from the sky naturally, or anything that comes out of the earth naturally. For example, rainwater. For example, snow, when it melts, it produces water. This is water from the sky. Hail, when it melts, it's coming from the sky. This is water. Sea water, rivers, wells, springs. These are all examples of tahur water, pure water. And the evidence is found in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً طَهُورًا. We have brought down from the sky tahur water. Water that can be used for purification. And as for the sea water, even though, yes, we can't drink it because it's very salty, but Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he commented about the sea and he says, as for the sea, it is tahur, and its maita, its dead animals, can be are halal, meaning you don't need to take a fish and slaughter it. Okay, you can just take a fish and cook it and eat it without doing anything to it. Okay, so sea water is also pure. Okay, and pure water, tahur water. I've said this already, but it's very important to understand. Tahur water can be used to remove the najasa and to remove the hadath. Clear so far? Cool? Okay. Now, what if something causes this water to change? This is where I really need your attention. We all agree from the previous slide that if I have pure water from any of the sources that I mentioned, okay, and nothing mixes in it, that this is tahur water, I can use it. Okay. What if something causes this water to change? And when I say change, it causes it to change its color or smell or taste. Can I still call this water tahur water? This is not a yes or no answer. Pay attention. It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So, if the change is due to a natural cause, for example, if water has remained in a certain place for a very, very long time. For example, you have a water bottle, okay? You bought a water bottle from Circle K. And then you left it in your cupboard. And 10 years later, you open your cupboard and you find that same water bottle. Now you're going to open that water bottle. It's going to maybe smell funny. It's going to maybe taste funny. You're going to be like, it's 10 years old water. I don't want to get, should I, it's different. But this kind of change, even though yes, this change may have changed, the taste may have changed slightly due to the passing of time. Maybe it smells a little bit funny, but this water is still tahur. Meaning I can take this water bottle and make wudu with it, no problem whatsoever. Okay? This is the first case. Or if I have tahur water and certain unavoidable objects mix with the water. For example, I go to the Bo River, and we said river, is it tahur or no? Yes. So Bo River is tahur. I can go and make wudu on Bo River if I wanted to. But there are trees and flowers around the Bo River. And let's say the wind blows and it causes flowers to go on the river, or leaves fall on the river. and a mix of a little bit of dirt, and I don't know, maybe a tree falls and the tree enters the water and it mixes with the water, you cannot avoid it. This is what happens in nature. Or sometimes you find rocks with moss, like this picture, like it has green moss that forms on top of the rocks. Obviously, this water, when you smell it, it's going to have a smell. If you taste it, it's not going to taste like bottled water, but this is still tahur water. Why? Because it's a natural cause. It's a natural cause, so this water is still tahur and can be used for tahara. Got it? Okay. What if I mix a pure substance with pure water? Can I call this water tahur? I'm not asking for an answer. Again, it depends. Sometimes yes and sometimes no. First of all, what's a pure substance? Anything that is not najas is called pure substance. Okay? So there are three cases that you have to consider. Case number one, I have to ask myself, this water that got mixed with something, did the color or the taste or the smell of this water change, even though it got mixed? Did any of these qualities change? If the answer is no, then this water is still pure, even if it got mixed. So let's say, for example, I have a container of water in front of me. And while I put this container down, my sister happened to be making hot chocolate next to me. And accidentally she spills just a tiny bit of chocolate powder in the water. And you see a little bit in the water, you know, that trace of chocolate, but then it disappears. You smell the water, it smells like water. You taste the water, it tastes like water. The color, the water did not become brown. So in this case, even though there was a little bit of hot chocolate, or not hot chocolate, a little bit of chocolate mix that got mixed with it, is this water tahur or not? Yes. And this water is completely fine, I can use it. Make sense? Case number one. Case number two, if the substance mixes to the point where I can no longer call this liquid water, then this is no longer tahur. An example for this is tea. The hot water, so how do you make tea? You boil the water and you put a tea bag in it, right? Right? So this hot water, is it tahur or not? This hot water by itself. Yes, no problem. But now if I add a tea bag into it, can I now call this water? Does anyone call this liquid hot water with a tea bag? When you go to a coffee shop and say, you want to order tea, do you say, hey, can I please order one small hot water and put a tea bag on it? No. You call it tea. It has a name. Chai, tea, whatever you want to call it. Okay? This liquid is no longer tahur. You cannot take tea and start making wudu with it. Okay? The same thing, for example, for juice. Like, it's not water. You do not call juice water. You don't call it water with an orange flavor. Okay? Makes sense. Okay? Or if I use the same example, if I had a container and my sister, she was making hot chocolate, and then she accidentally spills the whole bucket of hot chocolate in my container, and my whole container becomes brown, and it smells like chocolate and it tastes like chocolate, this is no longer water. This is no longer water. I cannot say like, oh, no, actually it was originally water, so I can make wudu with it. Okay? Makes sense? Clear? Case number three. What if something mixes with it, but it very slightly changes it? Meaning changes its color or smell or taste. In this case, it is still called water, and it can still be used for tahara. It is still tahur water. It is still tahur water. For example, let's say again, I have a container of water, and a bar of soap falls into the water, okay? And you realize, oh my God,
and then you quickly take that bar of soap out before it dissolves in the water. But you realize, okay, now there's some bubbles on the water, and there's only a little bit of a soapy smell. This water is only has a very slight amount of soap in it. So overall, you still call this water. You don't call this something else that's not water. So this water can still be used for tahara. Or sometimes, for example, you have taps. You know your taps that you have in your homes. Sometimes if they're left closed for a long period of time and then you open them again, sometimes the water doesn't come out pure, or it doesn't come out clear. It comes out a little bit murky, or sometimes it has like a yellowish color because of the rust that's inside the pipes. I know maybe it looks a little bit disgusting, but this is water. This is still tap water with a little bit of rust that's mixed into it, or a little bit of calcium that's mixed into it. This is still tahur water. I can use this water for tahara. Now I know some of us are going to ask, well, how do I know if something slightly changed, or if it changed too much? The scholars don't really give you a tool that you can measure. Oh, it slightly got changed. Oh, it got changed too much. They don't give you a tool. So they give us a very easy general rule. You simply ask yourself, is this water that is in front of me, can I call this liquid water? If the answer is yes, then I can use it for tahara. If the answer for no, then I cannot use it for tahara. So if it still has, generally speaking, the taste of water, maybe the smell a little bit different, the color is a little bit different, but it's still water, this can be used for tahara. If it got changed to the point where you can say, like, actually, this doesn't even look like water anymore. The moment you think that to yourself, khalas, this water cannot be used for tahara. Make sense? Or did I lose everybody? Okay, I'll move on. It's already, subhanAllah, past the time that I need to finish. We didn't even go into the seerah yet. What about used pure water, tahur water? And this is sometimes a confusion and between people. Let's say, for whatever reason, let's say there is no water flowing in the pipes, and I want to preserve the water that I have, and I don't want to drain the water that I use for wudu. So I made wudu with this water, and then I collected it. I collected that water. Can I use this water for tahara? The answer is yes, you can. Yes, you can. So let's say you already used the water, you made wudu with it, it fell into a container, for example, and then you took that container and then you used it to make wudu again later. This is completely fine. There is no problem with it whatsoever. Same thing if you performed ghusl and you collected the water, you can still use that water for tahara as long as the taste and the smell and the color did not change. Clear? Let's quickly test our understanding with a group exercise. This is a group exercise, it's not an individual exercise. So I'm going to give you a situation. You tell me if this water is tahur or not. Okay? So we have Ahmed over here. He is visiting his auntie's old house, and he goes to the basement and he finds a closed water bottle. And he picks up the bottle and he sees, and it's from the year 2010. Is this water tahur or not? Who says yes? Who says no? Very good. Yes, this water is tahur. Why? Because time does not change the water. Or even if the water got changed over time, the water still remains tahur. Clear? Sarah has taken a pile of snow from her backyard. She's melted it in her bucket, and then she used the water to make wudu. And once she was done, she noticed that there is a little bit of dirt with the snow. Is this water tahur? Who says yes? Who says no? The answer is yes. It is still tahur. Relax, it's not a big deal with you. Yes, it is still tahur. Because the water that's in the bucket is still water. And it's only a little bit of dirt that's mixed in the bottom. Okay?
Um, Yahya, he goes hiking and he takes a water bottle for wudu. But then he wants to stay healthy, so he adds a vitamin C tablet that has an orange flavor in it, in the water. Is this water tahur or not? Yes? No? Very good. It's not. Because once you put that in the water, this is no longer water. This is like vitamin C water with orange flavor, right? Like it's not water. Maryam fills a container with pure water from the kitchen sink. As she comes to carry it, she bumps an entire 1 kilogram jar of sugar into the water. Is the water tahur or not? Yes? No? No. Good. Because the taste has significantly changed. Water does not taste this sweet. Okay? So this is two different now. Hamza, he goes to the beach and he swims in the sea. The water tastes salty, but he decided to make wudu there. Is it tahur? Not tahur? Very good. Sea water specifically is tahur. Sea water is tahur. Fatima, she washes her face in the morning and she realizes the tap water is a little bit murky and it has like a little bit of white particles in it. Is this water tahur? Is it not tahur? Very good. This water is tahur. Clear? Good. Okay. We're going to cover this in the next 10 minutes, inshallah. The seerah. So last week we discussed the importance of the seerah. Today we're actually still not going to begin the seerah. We're quickly going to talk about the family of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his full family name is found in an authentic hadith in Al-Bukhari. So his name, I put it down, he is Muhammad, and I encourage you to try to memorize this. If you can't memorize all of this, memorize as much as you can from it. Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim ibn Abdul Manaf ibn Qusay ibn Kilab ibn Murrah ibn Ka'b ibn Lu'ay ibn Ghalib ibn Fihr ibn Malik ibn Nadr ibn Kinana ibn Khuzayma ibn Mudrika ibn Ilyas ibn Mudar ibn Nizar ibn Ma'd ibn Adnan sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That is his full name. So I know it's, and between Adnan and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam there are 20 names. And Adnan is a descendant of Prophet Ismail alayhi salam. Okay? So, and we have a hadith about this lineage that if you study these names, you will truly find that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is chosen to be from the best of the best. There's a hadith narrated that Allah Azza wa Jal, He chose from the descendants of Ismail the tribe of Kinana. And from the tribe of Kinana, He chose the tribe of Quraysh. And Quraysh, from this name, is Fihr, most likely. The guy here in red, Fihr, he is most likely a Quraysh. And then from Quraysh, he chose Banu Hashim, and he chose me from Banu Hashim, meaning the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so subhanAllah, we don't have a lot of time to go into a lot of these names. So try to memorize the full lineage. If you can't memorize all the names, try to memorize till Fihr. If you cannot memorize till Fihr, bare minimum, I would say, try to memorize till Qusay. Very easy. Muhammad, who is his father? Abdullah. Who is his father? Abdul Muttalib. Who is his father? Hashim ibn Abdul Manaf ibn Manaf ibn Qusay. 5 names you need to memorize. So I encourage you to do that. Quickly mentioning who is his father. His father is Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib. And we don't really know much about Abdullah. He is the son of Abdul Muttalib. We do know, however, that Abdullah was one of the most beloved sons to Abdul Muttalib, and he was also a very handsome man. And he was very beloved to Abdul Muttalib, and he did not do anything that is dishonorable practices. He does have the title of Al-Dhabih, Abdullah. He has the title of Al-Dhabih. Why? Because due to a story that happened in the past, Abdul Muttalib, he swore to Allah in the past that if Allah grants him 10 sons, then he will, don't ask me why he thought this, that he will slaughter one of them for the sake of Allah. And he swore to Allah Azza wa Jal. And I don't know why. But, and then when Allah did grant him 10 sons, he had to fulfill this oath that he made. So when he did whatever he did, he threw the arrows, whatever, he picked Abdullah to slaughter. But then Quraysh, they loved Abdullah. They went to a fortune teller. They said, please, find a way. We don't want to kill Abdullah. So the fortune teller said, why don't you slaughter camels instead of slaughtering Abdullah? So eventually, after a series of events, they decided to slaughter Abdul Muttalib. He slaughtered 100 camels, and he saved Abdullah. But that's why Abdullah has the title of Al-Dhabih. And he got married to Amina, whom we're going to discuss in the next slide. And he left for a business trip. Shortly after his marriage, he left for a business trip. And Quraysh was a business tribe. That's how Quraysh made their money. They would go on business. In the Quran, you read رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. This is رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. They would go travel to Syria, they would go travel to Yemen, and they would go and do business, and they would make money. Okay? So Abdullah went to go on his business trip. He went and he never returned because he died in this trip. He died before the birth of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He got sick during the trip. His mother is Amina binti Wahb. And her father, she comes from a very, noble lineage as well. Her father is the chief of the tribe of Banu Zuhra. So he has a very noble status. He comes from a very high status. So Abdullah is the son of Abdul Muttalib, so he also has a noble status. Amina also has a very noble status. So the father of Amina got together with Abdul Muttalib, and they decided to marry Abdullah with Amina. And as I mentioned already, Abdullah, after the marriage, he went on a business trip. Amina got pregnant while Abdullah was away. And of course, the people came back from the trip. Abdullah did not return back from the trip. So Amina was a widow who was pregnant with the baby who would later become Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His grandfather is Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim. Okay? His actual name is actually not Abdul Muttalib. His actual real name is not Abdul Muttalib. His real name is Shaybatul Hamd. However, he got nicknamed as Abdul Muttalib. Why? Because, and there's a backstory, I'm not going to go into backstory, because as a kid, he had an uncle called Muttalib. Al-Muttalib. He had an uncle called Al-Muttalib. And Abdul Muttalib did not live in Mecca at that time. So Al-Muttalib brought with him his, this nephew of his, whom people didn't recognize. They saw a child walking with Al-Muttalib. And the people of Mecca, boys in the front, please, boys in the front, please stay quiet. Okay? So the people of Mecca, they saw this little child walking with Al-Muttalib. They didn't know who the child was, and so they said, this boy must be the slave of Al-Muttalib. This boy is the abd of Al-Muttalib. And since that day, he became known as Abdul Muttalib. Okay? And even when he grew old and he became a leader, his name was still Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib is not just a leader of Quraysh. He was the leader of Quraysh, but he's not just a leader of Quraysh. Abdul Muttalib is a legend amongst the Arabs. Every single Arab knew Abdul Muttalib. And he was like a very well-respected man. Everybody recognized him. Everybody loved him. Everybody, was in awe of Abdul Muttalib. In fact, they respected him so much that they built a platform for Abdul Muttalib next to the Kaaba. And they had like a throne for him. And nobody was allowed on this platform except for Abdul Muttalib. That's how much respect they had for him. Now, one of the great accomplishments of Abdul Muttalib is that he rediscovered the well of Zamzam. And this is, again, there is a backstory behind this. The well of Zamzam had been buried and lost for hundreds and hundreds of years. Allah had inspired Abdul Muttalib where to find the well of Zamzam. It was a time when Quraysh was in great starvation. There was no food, there was no water, there is no water to drink. At that point in time, Abdul Muttalib, he knew where to dig. He dug, and the spring of Zamzam gushed out, and the people of Quraysh drank from it. And eventually, he earned the respect of his tribe, and he got recognized as honestly like a hero because he saved his tribe from starvation. And we'll leave it at that for today. But before we leave, let's cover quickly the questions. Are there any questions, by the way, about anything about fiqh or aqeedah, fiqh or seerah? Okay. Apologies for keeping you a little bit over time, but we'll wrap this quickly, inshallah. Girls, what is the definition of tahur water? Yes, in the back corner. Yes, yeah, that's you. Yep. Pure water. What can it be used for? Good. So I can use it to remove najasa and to remove hadath. What happens if tahur water is left for a long period of time, or if an unavoidable object comes in contact with the water and changes its color or smell or taste? Yes, Shafi. Not tea bag. I'm not talking about a tea bag. I'm talking if like you just left the water for a very long time. So I'm telling you, it smells different and it tastes different. Yes, Ibrahim.
It's no longer pure. Or it's still pure. It's still pure.
Make up your mind.
It's still pure.
It is still pure. Nothing happens. Even if one of the main three qualities has changed, because it happened because because it got remained for a period of time, or because something unavoidable got mixed with it, we still call it pure. What happens if a pure substance is mixed with the tahur water? Give me like the summary that I gave you at the end, remember? Girls. Yes, you? You're right. So, sure, yeah. As long as whatever I have in the end, I can still call it water, and the color and the smell and the taste did not change drastically, this water is still tahur. Because what happens if the tahur water was already used for wudu or ghusl? Yes, in the front. Hmm? Very good. As long as the color and the smell and the taste did not change, this water is still tahur. Name three ancestors of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Remember this long list that I gave you? Name three ancestors. Girls, come on. I want to see some more participation. She already answered. Nobody knows anything. And I just spent, and mashallah, how much explaining all the names. Yes? Very good. So I'll just list the first three of them. Abdullah, his father. Abdul Muttalib, his grandfather. And Hashim, the father of Abdul Muttalib. Very simple. Okay? Who was Abdullah ibn Abdul Muttalib and how did he die? Boys. Yes, blue shirt? Yes? He died on a business trip. Very good. Who is he though? How is he related to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? His dad, his father. He is the father of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he died on a business trip before his birth. Who was Amina binti Wahb and which tribe was she from? Girls, come on. Guys, these are not difficult questions. Fiqh questions, okay, I understand. They're a little bit tricky. These questions are very simple. Like the 60-year-olds need to know how to answer them. Come on. Some participation. Who is Amina and which tribe is she from? I explained this like less than 5 minutes ago. Yes, in the corner. In the back corner. She's one of the what, sorry? How is she related to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? She's the mother. The tribe is, who can help her out? Yeah? Banu? Sorry, say it again. Banu Zuhra. Banu Zuhra. Okay, good. From the tribe of Banu Zuhra. Who was Abdul Muttalib ibn Hashim